If it's your first time here, we've been on a 10-week sermon series, a 10-week message series on singleness, dating, and marriage. And the whole month of February, we've been addressing singles and dating. And next month in March, we're going into marriage. But my 38-week pregnant wife with the third child, not the first child, because Asians don't raisin, amen? People are like, is this your first child? I'm like, this is third. They're like, how old are you, girl, right? So she's going to introduce a very, very special guest for us this morning, and we have a treat for us. So I'm going to hand it over to my wife, and we'll get this started.
All right, guys. If I walk off stage, don't worry about me. It means something's happening. I don't know what's going on, but we will continue. We are so excited. I have my friend Kait here today. Before she comes up, I just want to introduce her. Her name is Kait. She is host of a podcast called Heart of Dating. It's one of the top Christian dating podcasts on iTunes, I think, or maybe, iTunes. She's also a speaker, a best-selling author, and she is a dating coach. But she's also a friend that I admire and look up to very much. In fact, we met only 3 years ago, and I don't think Kait remembers this, but I remember this very clearly because I went home and I told William about Kait. But we were actually... I did. We were at a retreat, and we were just introducing ourselves. I remember we had, like, wine in our hands or something, and we were just talking. And she was like, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, my husband and I, we have a prayer gathering. And I was like, what do you do? And she was like, I am a host of a podcast called Heart of Dating. And I was like, oh, dating. And I was like, oh, how long has it been? And she's like, well, we almost have, 60 episodes. I was like, 60 episodes? I was like, my mouth dropped open. I was like, what do you talk about for 60 episodes? And she looked at me and she had her wine glass. She's like, girl, everything. And I was like, what? And so that because our story is we started dating, and you guys will hear more about it, but we started dating at 20, got married at 24. So we have missed the online dating, the modern dating era. And just in the past few years, we've learned what catfishing means. Actually, this morning, he's like, what is catfishing?
Andrea was like, I'm going to talk about catfishing. I was like, what's catfishing?
Like ghosting, you could kind of pick up. But anyway, so we're one of those people that kind of missed that era, and she is an expert on this, but she is someone that has such a heart to see men and women walk in their full worth and identity in Christ. And she has walked so many people through that journey, and you'll hear more about that today. So I'm so excited to invite her up here. Kait?
Oh my gosh. Hey guys. Oh wow. I've been sitting in the front row. I didn't get to see everyone's faces. Hey. I'm going to take a seat. This is such an honor to be with you guys today. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for having me.
I know, we're so excited. I actually haven't even been able to see you in a few years, or this past year. We've been trying to go to Disneyland together, but
oh my gosh,
God had different plans. But here she is. She actually just got engaged, and her fiance is right here, JJ.
Hey, you should stand up, bro.
Yeah.
She needs to show you off for a second, dog. You just gotta, let's go, man.
And she will share more about that story later. But before we get started, Kait, do you want to just share a little bit about yourself and how you started Heart of Dating? How did that come about?
Yes. Okay. I would love to share this with you guys. So I started Heart of Dating. It's wild to think this March will be 4 years since the podcast began. But I will be really honest. Before that, I never saw myself talking about dating, and especially my dating journey publicly. Okay, think about it. If God calls you right now when you are still navigating this whole ambiguous journey of dating, and he's like, I want you to start a podcast on dating, you might be like, me? What? Me? And that is exactly what happened, y'all. I was like, really? You want me to start a podcast on dating? Because my story, which we'll get into, is years and years of dating and toxic relationships and losing myself, putting my identity in men, in finding a spouse, and doing a lot of the wrong things in dating. So 4 years ago, when I really felt, or 4.5, when I felt God put this idea on my heart, ironically, it was in the wake of another heartbreak that I had been through with a guy at that time that I really did think I was going to marry. And, I was processing and praying and like, God, what is next? And I heard him say, start a podcast. And I was like, well, that's really weird because I worked in fashion at the time. I listened to podcasts, but I wasn't like really in on the podcast jam. And I'd never done an interview before. And then as I prayed into starting a podcast, I felt God say, it's going to be on dating. And I'm telling y'all what, I was like, are you cray-cray? Are you cray-cray? But as I prayed into that for months on end, it was just confirmed over and over and over. And God reminded me, he said, Kait, I have brought you this far. Don't you think I will also bring you through that too? And so I was like, okay, you're right. You have been so faithful. Okay. And so there was some fear in starting a podcast and going into the unknown and being vulnerable. But the first year really proved that God's wanted to bless this. And so now it's 4 years in, and it's been more than just a podcast. As Andrea said, there's a book that I wrote last year. There's programs. There's getting to help thousands of singles, and it's been really such a joy. So
Yeah, and you said you have almost 200 episodes now.
yeah,
There's
like over 200 episodes.
200 episodes.
So somebody DMs me and they're like, Kait, I have this question. I'm like, have you listened to any of the 200 episodes? Because we probably have covered it.
Now you guys are all going to go back and be like, how am I going to get through 200? Well, you will probably get through it eventually.
Yeah.
But we're going to jump right into it. I know that for the past, we're going through a 10-week series on dating and marriage, dating, singlehood, and marriage. But we're going to jump right into it today on dating. If you guys are like me, I grew up in church where it was like date to get married, date to find the one, make a list and pray over your list and prepare to find your future husband or, all of those things. And so there was like...
That's why she found me, fam. Hey, by the way, I'm up here as decoration. That's it. My wife was like, I just need you to sit next to me. I said, what I'm going to do? What am I going to do? She said, if I give birth, just carry me out. So just know, decorations right here. So if I'm just sitting here awkward, I throw these side jokes, just decorations.
I was like, just in case I need you up here. But if you're like me, or maybe you haven't grown up in church, there's a lot of pressure on dating. It's like, I need a date to make sure that this person is the one. Maybe on date one or date two, you're like, is he the one? Is she the one? And there's just so much pressure. And so growing up, I think a lot of Christians, especially the church, we hear a lot about the journey to marriage, or we hear about marriage, but we don't hear about dating and the dating process. And that's why I've been so inspired by Kait, because 200 episodes. And this is not just like on dating, it's like Christian dating. It's like biblical, finding that man and woman of God, that process. And so I kind of wanted to invite you, Kait, as we start this conversation. Why do you think it's kind of awkward to talk about dating in church? And, pastors kind of dance around it. Like, they talk about how to prepare yourself, but they don't talk about the dates. They don't talk about Hinge. They don't talk about online dating, all of those things, like the list. And
the catfishing.
Right, the catfishing.
Hold
right?
on, what's catfishing? Is it inappropriate?
This is real, yeah, when somebody pretends to be you, basically. So on an app, it's easy to do. Not easy to do, but it can happen. So it's like I've been catfished before. Somebody takes my pictures and they're pretending to be me, for example, like on a dating app, and they are using all my information, and then they're talking with somebody on this dating app.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had a wrong definition of catfishing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so not fun. But I don't want to scare people that's all online dating. But that does happen in our modern days.
Right. And so, we in church, we don't hear about dating. And so I just want to invite you to talk about that. Like, what is dating? Does the Bible address it? Why is it awkward to talk about?
Yeah, so it's awkward to talk about because I think, to your point, dating isn't in the Bible, right? Like back in the day, people had arranged marriages and women were getting married at really young ages, like that we would never consider today that would be appropriate for girls to get married. And there wasn't like a deciding who you want to be with. True modern dating has only come on the scenes in the last roughly 100 years, maybe a little over that. And now we have the right to decide who we want to date, which is a blessing because I don't know about you, but I would not want my parents to set me up with somebody, okay? But it's also like a curse in a sense because it leaves the ability for everybody to make up their own rules in dating. And that doesn't just include the secular world, that happens in the Christian world. Like, we are all doing dating so differently. And it all depends on your upbringing, the modeling that you had from your parents or from the people around you. It has to do with your community and how your community is dating. It has to do with how much or not enough your pastors or leaders are talking about dating around you. So we all have a different definition of dating, which is why it's so weird sometimes and hard to navigate. And I love that we're even starting here, because I think I've had so much compassion in my dates before JJ, like when I used to date a lot, realizing the way I date is not necessarily the way this other person's going to date. That doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them even necessarily ineligible for me. They are just doing it differently. And so instead of judging them, what if I just get curious? What if they're doing things different, they're trying to act casual, not text me back? Well, that could have been the influence from their community, and not just that they are a bad texter or trying to play games. Maybe it's like their friends are like, don't put so much pressure, don't text her back right away. And so you really have to think about, how do I get curious and see and just seek to understand this person's background, how they learn dating. And so that's a really, really, really big reason why dating is so awkward and weird. And on top of that, it's just, we don't know how to do it very well as Christians. It's so weird. And we, like on date one, we're like sizing the person up to be our husband or wife. And we have to know all these things. And it's like an interview, and you leave sweating and exhausted. And you're like, can I see myself with them? I don't know. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And so we need to take a deep breath. We need to redefine what dating is. So you asked me what dating is. So I really see dating as an opportunity to get curious about somebody, another man or woman of God, that is wired and designed, created, thinks completely different than you. So dating is an opportunity to get curious about somebody totally different. And get this, you guys, we'll get into this. But I see dating as the means to figure out if you want to be in a relationship with somebody. A lot of times we're seeing dating as the means to know if we're getting married. And so this is where I like to actually break up the phases of singleness to marriage to be 5 different phases instead of just 4. And this is where the clarity comes in about how we see dating. So we have singleness, which you guys have been talking about. Then we have dating. Then we have relationship. Then we have engaged. Then we have married. So what changes here? A lot of people put relationship and dating in the same category. So then it gets very confusing. We don't know what dating is at all. Is dating and going on dates different? Is dating and being exclusive different? Is dating and being in a relationship? What's the difference between all those things? But if we can separate dating and relationship to see dating is the season of getting curious, meeting somebody different from myself, going on some dates, and figuring out through a period of time, building friendship, figuring out through a period of time if I want to be in a relationship with that person. The relationship is to figure out if you want to get engaged to the person. And so I think just that alone sets a really big point of clarity for all of us, at least it definitely did for me, to say, okay, I can take some pressure off of dating. It's not to like just find my spouse, it's to get curious and it's not to lead people on. It's not just about having a good time, nothing like that. You can be intentional, but it's to take some of that pressure off. I'm going to genuinely build a friendship with this person and then see if I want to be in a relationship. So.
Wow, I love that. I think that's the kind of missing component, right? Dating to relationship, because there's so much pressure. It's like, I have to end up with someone or I don't. And you end up dismissing people that you maybe could have had a relationship with, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk more about the dating, like the actual dating process? Like, you know, growing up, especially, I'm a Disney girl. I'm turning my daughter into a Disney girl. I'm a little worried. But, you know, we talk a lot about the spark. It's like, do you feel a spark? And do you, you know, what, like,
I felt the spark. She did not feel the spark. And she didn't feel it for 2 years.
Yes.
So I had to keep lighting matches for 2 years straight. So I felt spark, bang. She said no. All right, back to you. Go ahead.
Well, anyways, sorry, I don't want to talk about us too much. But the dating process, like, there's so many components to it. It's like, how are you supposed to feel? Are there expectations? Are we supposed to have certain expectations? So if you could just talk about that. Like, what is the dating process? What should it look like? What could it look like? It's different for everybody, but how would you talk about it?
Yeah, so typically I see people on two ends of the spectrum. And so as I'm speaking, try to think of where you land on the spectrum. Typically, one end of the spectrum is you date a lot or you've dated a lot and you just go on dates. And maybe you've chosen not the right people, especially if you're not married right now. And so with that kind of person, I want to suggest that you do some analyzing and taking ownership of why has my dating relationships been like this? And by the way, that was me. That was my story. And so I had to really take stock and look at my own life and say, Kait, you've dated and dated and dated and dated, and it's not ending very well for you. You keep getting your heart broken. And so for me, I had to take a season where I said, okay, like, what am I doing here? And what I realized for myself is I was putting my identity in a lot of relationships. And I was attaching really quickly in relationships. I would attach like right away because I love love. And I'm the Disney girl that's like a fairy tale. And like, I was so bought into that I would, and because, the whole Christian lens, I would give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt. And I would attach really early on, finding and clinging to their potential. Okay, instead of who they actually were right now. And so a lot of people I see are dating a lot of people for their potential. They're dating, and they're not dating truly the right kind of person for them. And so that person needs to take a step back and kind of analyze, okay, what's going on with me in my dating life? Take some ownership here. Recognize some of your patterns. And this is not to make you feel shamed of your patterns. It's just to say, hey, I keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working. Clearly, I need to do something different. And recognize your attachment to dating. Why are you dating? Get back to that question. Why are you dating? Is it to fill a void? Is it to seek attention? Is it to make yourself feel better? Is it because you feel like if you don't date, you will, oh my gosh, you'll lose out on this opportunity in marriage, or you're getting in your 30s and your ovaries and all these things, and you just feel, oh my gosh, the pressure. And if that's the reason, then we also need to analyze that, because you need to be dating from a place of understanding who you are, loving who you are and your life with or without somebody else, and also recognizing that God is a good God, that he will provide good things to you. So you don't need to date to try to rush and force that process. And so that's for the one person over here. Then on the other side of the spectrum is the person that maybe doesn't date at all, maybe has never dated at all, and puts a lot of pressure on dating and potentially has a laundry list of a lot of things you're looking for. And this person often says, that person's not my type. Nope, not my type. Nope, not going to say yes. Not going to go out with them. Nope, not my type. And you're thinking about your laundry list of 30 plus things, and you're like, nope, not going to consider them. Okay? And that is a lot of singles in the church as well. And that wasn't my story per se, but I know a lot of people that is their story. And to you, I would say, we need to take a breather. You need to really take notes on what I just said about separating that dating and relationship phase. And you need to just pick 5 top things that you're looking for. Just 5, okay? There could be more things that you're looking for, but 5 top things. And then within those 5 top things, you need to analyze what are the quality of these 5 top things. Are these things character qualities? Or are these things, does he have a good job? Do I like his last name? Is he the worship person? And the guy, same, there's all things that you think of too. And maybe you're not even putting it on your list, but subconsciously it's driving whether you say yes or no to somebody. And so I would really challenge you, pick 5 things and be more open and start releasing the pressure for yourself on the dating process. So does that answer the question, or is there more to add there?
This is good.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Because I can say more, but...
I just want to ask this head on, because this is a question that I feel like we get very often. Does the one exist?
Great question. Wow. Everyone is
I
wondering.
answered that last week, so I hope we have the same answer.
Yeah.
Or everybody that was here going to be confused. So Just know she answers a different answer. She's right, I'm wrong. Okay? Go ahead.
So I don't believe that the one exists.
Let's go.
Okay,
Come on. Same answer. Let's go.
Okay, I'm sweating there.
We're
I
on
was
the
like,
same
oh
page,
boy, this is about to get awkward. Woo! I believe that is the figment from Disney and fairy tales and rom-coms, which, by the way, I am all about all those things. But I do believe that it really shows, like, it's this picture of the one perfect person that you're on this journey to find. And guess what? There's not really one perfect person out there. And a lot of this journey, I wish you were up here with me, babe, because
next year, you'll be up here.
Yeah.
Next year,
To be very honest, when JJ asked me out a little over a year ago, I almost said no because he was not my type. He, at the time, had blue hair. He did.
Blue hair.
Hair. He
That's
had an earring.
confidence.
Yeah, I wish we had a photo of this. It is on his Instagram, so go look after. He had blue hair, an earring, skater punk style. He's 5.5 years younger than me. And to be honest, I was like, oh, I don't know if that is the kind of guy I would date. And look at God, okay? I said yes because I was in a season of challenging myself and being more open. And look at what God did, right? God brought us together and revealed to me that, oh my gosh, all these things didn't really matter. Didn't matter. His heart, his character, so many, the way he pursued me, our friendship, so much more important. So I truly believe that the one is the one for you because you choose that they are the one for you. Like, it is a decision and a choice. And I recommend you choose as wisely as possible. But I don't believe that there is one person that we are on a quest to find. I just do not believe that. And quickly, I want to just address the spark and chemistry that you brought up, because I do think, there's a beauty to feeling a spark. But let's be honest, we just established that Christian dating can feel really awkward and really weird. And a lot of times on a first date, that's where people are looking for the spark, in the first date. And really, because Christian dating is so awkward, people are a little nervous. And they may not, they're not necessarily, they're like trying to give themselves a pep talk before this first date. And there may not be a spark, okay? There may not be one because the person is nervous. You may be nervous. Maybe they're busy in their lives. They had a hard day at work. Maybe you just got to give it time, okay? I believe better than a spark is a slow burn over time. Wow. That you recognize there's something good there with the person, a friendship, and you start building layer upon layer onto that friendship. And that is what's going to last more than something that starts fast. Things that start fast often end fast, okay? Yes.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I was going to ask you about just if you could address the spark, which you did. But I feel like online dating, which I want to say probably a lot of you guys are on different apps or you're pursuing, dates online and you're meeting people in person and they're looking for the spark. But can you kind of just talk about online dating?
She straight up told me, I wish I was single during this era. She's like, I wonder how the online dating world feels. And I was like, girl, I saved you from online dating.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I'm so curious. And
it was curiosity. I hear all my friends talk about it.
I'm your soulmate, okay? No, I'm kidding, I'm playing, I'm joking. No, we bring that up because me and Andrea, we were never a part of the online dating era. Mm-hmm. So we're actually curious about this because we're pastoring and mentoring young couples who are in that arena. So we'll love to hear your perspective on that, yeah.
Yeah, so online dating has a bad rap because of Tinder and some different apps that are used for hookups, okay? That's just the reality that has a bad rap because people are like, oh no, everyone on dating apps is just looking for a hookup. But the reality is over 35% of people meet online. Over 1/3 of people meet on a dating app, and less than 2% of people meet in a place of worship. Okay? And I'm not saying that you can't meet people in this room. I totally encourage that.
Sorry,
totally
guys.
Encourage that.
I didn't know that. That's a new statistic for me.
Yeah. It's weird. And then those numbers aren't even updated with all COVID stuff. So add COVID in, I know those numbers have jumped even more with communities not being the same as they used to, and with all the distancing and online dating and social media, honestly. But so here's a lot of what I hear with online dating. People just are like, it's not God's way for me to meet someone. And to that I say, you got to break up with a fairy tale in your mind about how you're going to meet this person. Because I'm telling you, it's not going to be, most likely, it's not going to be that you're at the grocery store and then suddenly the clouds part and there's a light that comes through and you hear a voice and the light points to this woman across the aisle looking at the apples. And it's like, this is the one for you. That is not how it's going to happen, y'all, okay? And I know we see all these movies. We get a lot of influence that says there's one way to meet someone and it's going to be this perfect moment. And the story of online dating isn't that exciting sometimes, people think, to share. I don't want that to be my story, but there's a lot of shame associated, I think, with it. And there is nothing wrong with online dating. I would say that online dating is a great way to meet people, but you have to check your intentions behind why you're using online dating.
This is good.
If you are genuinely using online dating to be open, to be curious, and if you have low expectations and just are open and use online dating as just a way to meet other people, it's a way for me to meet people I may never have the opportunity to meet. If you have a good heart posture with why you're using online dating, it could be a great win for you. But also within that, it's the manage expectations. Because if you go online and you're already thinking, this is going to suck and nobody good is on here, and then you're on the app and you swipe a few times left on the different people, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're going to be like, oh, I knew there were no good guys on here. See, online dating sucks. And then you go back to your small group and you all are talking about how bad online dating sucks. So you have to manage your expectations. Not every person on a dating app is going to be the person for you. Thank goodness, right? Okay? But there are amazing people on there. If conversely you're using online dating as a means to, if you were like me back in the day and you want attention or you want to fill this void or you feel scarcity, like your time is running out, you have to get online to find someone. Or if you just you like the company of chit-chatting for weeks on end with somebody, then I would recommend online dating is not a win for you. And it's probably not something that you should be on, because I actually think online dating is a tool, but you need to get offline as soon as possible. Because that's where all the heartbreak comes in and the talking for weeks on end without knowing somebody. That is where it gets exhausting. I hear some people commenting on, it gets exhausting. You're talking to somebody for weeks on end. No. 2 days, 3 days, get off the app onto a phone call or into an actual in-person date, and then see if you actually like them. So.
Wow, I love that, because there are so many myths about online dating, and people don't like to talk about how they're on, these different apps. But what app would you say is a good app for if, people are like, I'm kind of interested, maybe I'm on the wrong app, or, things like that?
That's true. And what I recommend, I'm going to give you a few app suggestions. I would try it out and give it some time, okay? Be consistent with it if you're actually going to get into online dating, or if you want to refresh yourself with online dating, because you have to give it a shot, like 15 minutes every, 5 days a week, I would say, on one app for a while. So 2 apps I recommend. I do actually love the app Hinge, because I feel like you get to know, there's more opportunity to get to know a person they allow you to put little videos on there. There's more question prompts. I find that app to be fun. I also like the dating app Upward, which is a Christian dating app. Hinge is not Christian per se. There are Christians on there, but it's not per se Christian, so you're going to have to do some deeper diving in some of the questions you ask the person. But Upward's another great app that's Christian and just available right now in the U.S. So.
Wow. I love that. Shout out to all the Hinge couples here. I know a few in here, so shout out to you
see,
guys.
okay. He got engaged back there on a Hinge. we had a Thanksgiving banquet where we asked people to write what you're thankful for, and it comes on the camera screen. The presentation screen, and people wrote Hinge on the screen. So,
and it got bigger and bigger and bigger because so many people were thankful for Hinge. With that, I want to actually transition this conversation to community. What does dating and community look like? Because one of the questions we got is, I met someone online. How do I incorporate this person into, our community? Or they dated someone in the community and it ended bad, and it's like, I can't bring this person I'm interested in to my community. So what does
I would
dating
love to add on to that. This might be a little loaded, so you might have to separate the two. But
let's go.
about the online and the dating community, there are people in this room and maybe in other religious communities where they say stuff like, you only have one shot at this church. If I go for one person, it doesn't work out.
Right, like
have
the
one
silver
bullet.
bullet.
I have one
It's
bullet.
like one,
I need to leave this church because now I'm going to break someone's heart and everyone's going to gossip about me. So how would you walk with someone
This is so real. And I'm going to speak to the ladies, okay, for a minute here, because a lot of us ladies are, okay, I've been in lots of girls groups. I've read all the DMs, and a lot of women are saying there's no good guys out there, which for all my brothers in the room, and I see a lot of them, I can already see. I know that is not true, but there's a lot of women who feel that it's true. And a lot of women, we love to communicate emotionally, and we love to tell our girls all the things. But this is what we need to do with dating and community. The first thing is you have to stop telling everyone about it, okay? So if somebody, after this church service, asks for your number or asks you out.
Hello.
You don't have to go tell everyone about it, okay? It's you and that person. We're going to take that pressure off. I'm just going to talk with them for 90 minutes, do a fun activity with them for 90 minutes. There's no pressure for it to go anywhere. It may just be a friendship. I'm just going to say yes, and I'm not going to tell the 5, 10, 20 girls that I am on group text with that I'm going on a date with this guy in church. Oh my gosh. So the first thing we have to do is stop telling everyone about it, because that's why guys are not asking girls out in church communities, because they're like, oh gosh, I asked her out, and then I know that these 10, 15, 20 girls are all immediately going to find out. And that is intimidating for a guy, because then they're like, this girl's now analyzing my every move, my date, all my texts. She's going to screenshot them and send them in a group thread with all these other girls.
No screenshots. That ain't cool, man.
Yeah, but exactly. But this is the reality, and I have done it in the past, so that's why I can speak to it, okay? We need to change it up. And you know what? Oh, yeah, and this is it, ladies in the room. If he does ask you out and your friends want to make a big deal out of it because maybe they found out or they witnessed it, you're just like, you can dictate how much people are talking about this by saying, yeah, I'm excited, and it's not really a big deal. We'll just see what happens. Build a friendship. And that's it, y'all. That is it.
Come on, somebody.
That is it. You can immediately stop it by not making it such a big deal, okay? The other parts to this is you go on a date and maybe a second, maybe a third date, okay? And then it doesn't work out. Maybe he's not into you, okay? And this goes the other way with the guys as well, but I'm talking to the ladies for a second. Maybe he's just not that into you. He doesn't want it to move forward into anything further. This is then what the ladies do, often. Then we go to our girls and we're like, oh my gosh, it didn't work out. This was so horrible. And then you start picking out these things that may not even be true about the guy and just putting him on blast. Well, he took me this place on our first date. Can you believe that? And now all the girls are like, oh my gosh, he did that? Wow. Oh my goodness. And it's just not fair. It's not fair, and it's not honoring. It's not honoring to the man who's asking you out. And it shouldn't be that guys feel so much pressure that they can only choose one girl from an entire church community, and that's it, okay? That's also a lot of pressure for them, because they're like, oh, I may also kind of think this girl's cute, but I have to go with this girl because it's the girl I feel strongly about. But that's it. That's my, that's one trick pony. That's the only one I can ask. We need to do a better job of leaving people better than we found them, and by really pursuing honor in dating. And so if it does not work out, know that if you are bad-mouthing somebody, it has way more to do with just your relationship with rejection, potentially the way you see yourself. And this is unfortunately a lot of what happens when we feel shame because we feel unworthy, or we feel in some way it's our fault it didn't work out. A lot of the times shame turns to blame. So we feel internal shame and we start blaming it on the other person. And that's when you'll see a lot of people, I feel shame it didn't work out. I don't feel worthy. I feel unloved. I feel this, that, and the other. And therefore, we start blaming the other party. And it's just not honoring. And so we need to stop telling everyone about it. We need to stop talking poorly about the guy, especially ladies, if it doesn't work out. And there's always things. Like if there are things that he did that you didn't appreciate, share that with him. But don't tell every girl about it that you know. This is a learning opportunity potentially for him and also hopefully for you, but you don't need to tell everybody about it. And it should be okay if he wants to ask another girl out in the community, okay? That should be totally okay. All right. I have a lot to say on that.
I was just going to say, like,
I agree.
I just think it's beautiful because what Kait is saying is, let's be mature. That's, in essence, that's what you're saying. Because a lot of people are still stuck in junior high emotions and immaturity. But this is it's a very holistic approach. You're like, hey, let's be mature. Let's be men and women of God.
Yes.
Let's be adults. And let's show honor and respect. This is fantastic.
And last thing is, if you are in those communities and then your girls' nights, for example, or guys' nights, this goes both ways, and you see that somebody is bringing up their date and talking poorly about their date, y'all, this is a red flag. If I'm going on a date and the guy talks badly about his ex, I'm immediately like, red flag. So if you are in a girls' group, a guys' group, and the girl is blasting this guy she went out with, or vice versa, be the person that says, hey, I actually want to interject here. And I don't think that's very honoring for us to talk about this person that way. There's a difference between, this person privately processing with maybe 1, 2 close people, their therapist, mentor, and blasting that person for everyone else. So if you are witnessing this is how we can change the dynamic of dating community. Call the person out with love. Call them up and say, I don't think it's honoring to be talking about this person that way. So I also want to add that because I think it's so important for us all. We all play a part with dating and community. So.
Wow, I love that. And we don't have much time, but I got asked this so many times, so I just want to stay on this topic of dating still, because we did want to talk about heartbreak, rejection, and toxic relationships. Yeah. But before we move on to that, can you just address season of waiting? I got so many messages from people who are like, I'm told to wait all the time by pastors. How do I know when I'm ready to pursue a relationship or be in a relationship? And someone wrote on, I read a comment somewhere where someone was like, if I'm told season of waiting one more time, I will break my computer. So, how do you know when you're in a season of waiting versus
I
when you're...
I apologize on behalf of all the pastors. And I apologize for saying that last week, okay? Kait, how old are you, by the way? So people know, how old are you?
Oh, yeah, 32.
32. You just got engaged when? They don't know.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, y'all. 32. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's give her a hand, right?
Oh, thanks, guys.
All right. So, go ahead. Yeah, that would be great.
So the season of waiting, oh my goodness. It really does, unfortunately, make it so that marriage is the ultimate goal by saying, I'm in a season of waiting. It's like when you're waiting, you're like, oh, I'm so excited. And there's a difference between idolizing marriage and being just genuinely excited about it. There's differences there, and that's a heart posture. And so sometimes we emphasize the season of waiting so much that it makes us feel like we should be waiting and idolizing marriage like it is the end-all, be-all. And I just think, here's the thing, waiting on God, this whole thing is not, I'm sitting here and I'm doing nothing and I'm waiting on God to bring me somebody. It's really this posture of, what can I do to just love where I am right now? Truly, how can I run towards Jesus? We all want an awesome love story. If you're single in this room, most likely you want an awesome love story. We already have an awesome love story with our Creator.
Come on.
We have an amazing love story with Him. And so He loves us first. Your relationship, your marriage will not fill that place. It will never fill that place. And so in our quote unquote waiting season, okay, this is just an opportunity to seek that great love story that already exists for you guys, okay? And then when you are so excited, fulfilled, content truly in that, you will see somebody else running at your same pace. You'll actually have clearer eyes to say, this is somebody good for me or not, when you are so set and focused on God. And so, but also within this waiting season, I think, if you are in a place where you are open to date, then I would suggest don't just sit there and wait for it to happen to you. I do believe that we need to be active in this process. A lot of people are frustrated. They're like, I can't find someone. I'm like, well, are you trying to go on dates? Did you get online? Did you talk to the guy you think is cute, or vice versa? Or are you just waiting for it to happen? Because that's not how it's going to work, y'all. You got to talk to the person if you are interested in them. You have to be an active participant. Like, God wants us to actively participate in this story, not just sit here and wait for him to do all the work. That's just not how it works in our lives. We have to actively be a participant in building a relationship with him and building a relationship with ourselves and building a relationship with others, which includes dating, if we want that. And so we have to actively participate in that process.
Wow. Yeah, I'm enjoying this so much because I feel like she's bringing clarity to a lot of things that we kind of idolize in our minds. Like, I'm in this season of waiting and then I'm going to get married. But I love how you delineate that and you talk about that. And because we're a little short on time, I just wanted to transition us into healing toxic relationships. I know that's a part of your story too. And so I wanted to ask, how do you know if you're in a toxic relationship? Yeah. What does that first step towards healing look like? And you could even share a part of your story if you'd like.
Yeah. So I'm so glad, and thank you guys. I know we've been talking for a while. Toxic relationships is a huge passion on my heart. So just quickly, from the age of 14 to 24, I dated nonstop. My parents let me date really early. But anyway, I was dating nonstop. And in doing so, I was just like relationship. But in the process, I formed some really bad tendencies and habits. So behind the scenes, I would berate myself if it didn't work out with the guy. I felt really unworthy on the inside. Outside, never. People would think like she has it all together, but inside, there wasn't a lot of self-love. And in fact, there's a lot of self-hatred. At the end of those 10 years, I found myself in a relationship with a man who I dated him for 2.5 years, and he ended up being abusive in every way. It started with emotional abuse and verbal abuse, and it moved into sexual and physical abuse over the period of the 2.5 years. And there was so much that I learned in that journey. It was the hardest time in my life, and exiting that relationship, which I want to just give some weight to the fact that it took me a long time to exit the relationship. On average, an abuse victim will go back to their abuser 7 times. That's on average before they leave for good. And I honestly think I left and broke up with this guy probably 30 times, but kept going back. There was even a restraining order, and I still went back. And it wasn't till truly I was at just the lowest of lows when I finally had a semblance of confidence to break off this relationship. And it was in that process where God really met me with so much kindness. And oh gosh, I just think back, it was so hard because truly I'd already formed a lot of self-abusive tendencies. I thought of myself so poorly. I berated myself behind closed doors internally over and over. And so when somebody else is speaking kind of horrible things to you in the middle of a relationship, if you already have these negative tendencies and thought processes about yourself, it's easier for you to start accepting them when somebody is saying them to you. And so in my season of healing, I had to do a lot of work on refiguring out who Kait was and re-enjoying who that person was, because I didn't like myself at all. Without work, which I was a performer as an Enneagram 3, and without men, I did not like myself at all. I hated myself. And so I went through a season of breaking ties with all men, not dating at all, and really seeking to find who is Kait and what do I love about her? Who does God say that Kait is? What does God love about Kait? And that was such an important journey for me to be on after years of dating and ending in an abusive relationship. And so, and that is important for every person in this room, whether or not you've been in a toxic relationship. It is so important to go on that journey of self-love, because you date your level of self-love, okay? You date your level of self-love. So if you don't have a lot of self-love, you will accept and date people that
Good.
reflect negative things about yourself because you already believe those things. Conversely, if you believe really wonderful things about yourself, if you are satisfied with where you are in your life, you will not accept the treatment of somebody who is tearing you down. In fact, you will be even able to recognize it sooner. And so we do attract and often date our own level of self-love. And so to answer your question, how do you know if you're in a toxic relationship? There are some signs and signals which I wish I knew going into this, the relationship I was in. But I think one of the biggest key things to notice for every person is how do you genuinely feel around the person? Really taking stock of how do you feel around the person? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel on edge? Do you feel like at any point this person is going to potentially abandon you? Maybe they've threatened to do that many times. How do you genuinely feel around this person? And you can, this is also just paying attention to the Holy Spirit speaking to you. Because I believe on a date, and even in the beginning, we start feeling something in our gut. We can feel like, something just isn't right. But a lot of times we haven't learned to trust that voice. And so we're just like, oh no, it's just me like acting in fear. Okay, I'll give them an opportunity. And so learning to trust what the Holy Spirit is saying to you. How do you genuinely feel around this person? Other signs of a toxic relationship. So if you feel not great, that's definitely a sign that this may not be right for you. Other signs of a toxic relationship are somebody who is not growth-minded, okay? So a toxic and especially an abusive person will say all the right things to get you to stay with them. But at the end of the day, they're not doing any of the things they're saying they're going to do. If you recommend that they seek help for something, or if you share that something hurt you and you really would love to see them change this, they're probably not going to seek that change. They might say to get you to stay in the relationship, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to work on those things. But they never actually do it. See, a toxic, an abusive person knows the right things to say. They're going to love bomb you. They're going to reminisce with you. They're going to say sorry sometimes, but they're not actually going to do the work of figuring out how to love you well. Okay, and that is a really big indicator that this could be toxic. There's so many more things. I don't know if I can have time to get into them, but also, last thing I'll just say, very important, is do you have a solid community of people around you? And what do they say genuinely about this person? Wow. And this should happen a little further while you're dating, because again, don't tell everybody you're dating this person in the beginning. But as you are become moving more seriously into dating, really important to allow other people in and say, I don't know, I'm really close in this relationship, and this is how I feel. But what do you experience with this person? And am I missing anything? And these people should be people that know your story, know your history, know your struggles, know where you may blindly attach in love where you shouldn't, and be able to see from a third person's perspective, you know what, Kait, when I've seen you around this guy, it seems like you're performing. It seems like you're on edge. It seems like you're constantly trying to please him. And something about that just isn't right to me. And so you need to have some of those core voices as well in your life. And I didn't have that. So.
Wow, thank you, Kait, so much for sharing. Guys, I'm so bummed because we're so short on time. But even though we were short on time, I wanted to bring that up because I know there might be some people in this room who are walking through that healing journey, or you're maybe in a relationship where you're questioning, like, is this the right relationship for me? So thank you, Kait. We wanted to actually end on her sharing her story with JJ, but we're so short on time that we're just going to bring it to a close.
Oh, wow, it's 12:20.
Yeah.
We could go another hour. We usually end at 12:15.
You guys are like, more, please. I could see everyone's like.
If this is all right with you guys, why don't we give her 5 more minutes? We would love to hear just a story It's exciting to celebrate with you.
Okay.
And let me just share this too real quick. Don't want to take too much time. She just had a national conference, a huge conference 3 weeks ago. And she got engaged at the same weekend, right?
Yeah, right before.
Right before. Yeah. So when we invited her to come and speak for us, we were pretty confident she was going to say no because of her schedule. But she's been so generous sharing her heart and time. So we would love to hear that. and then a couple of resources, and then
Yes.
we'll end the day. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yes, and I can be quick. Oh, hi, Henny. And so, for me, I just want to address, I've been the single girl for a very long time. And really, I was so excited to meet JJ last year because I was in a season, and this has been my slogan, if I could leave this with you guys, but date the unexpected. Date the unexpected, and God just may do the unexpected. Give that guy a shot that you would probably have normally said no to because, oh man, like I don't feel a spark, I'm not overly attracted to him. Say yes. Just give him a shot. And guys, same for you. Date the unexpected. When I started dating JJ, I was just so open, and he so genuinely and beautifully surprised me with his amazing pursuit. He's 5.5 years younger than me. We dated long distance for the first few months as well. And so there's a lot of parts of our story which are just, not normal, I suppose. And yet we had a great long distance relationship. His job actually is based down in Orange County. So totally God aligning the fact that he was already going to move down to Orange County, and we started dating. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, well, he's going to move down here. And but I will be really honest, because some of you may look at me and think, oh, wow, she's been through a lot, but she has got it together now. And I just want to be really honest that our dating journey was not perfect and wasn't just filled with sunshine and rainbows and butterflies. I had done a lot of healing work. JJ's nodding his head. I'm like, I'd done a lot of healing work, but I want to normalize, especially for people in the toxic relationships, healing from that. There will be things that potentially come up when you date. And for JJ and I unfortunately, early into our relationship, I ended up being in a season of burnout and depression. And it was a really, really hard season. And it was difficult. We had moments where we were like, should we be dating in this season? But we had people around us supporting us. And we felt both clearly from God that we were still supposed to date and keep fighting for this. And so we dated for about a year. And I remember at the 6-month mark, it was hard, y'all. For a few months there, it was really, really difficult. And we sought a lot of counsel from a lot of people, and just so excited to now be getting married. And so that's just a little bit. There's so much in there, but I'm so excited. So,
yeah, dude. Look, she has a podcast called The Heart of Dating. There we go. Look at that right there. The picture's right there, right?
I was like, the picture.
That's how he proposed right there.
So beautiful.
And you also have a book, correct?
Yes. Thank you for rejecting me. It's all about, thank you. It's all about, dealing with your relationship with rejection of many kinds. Self-hatred, insecurity, inner self-rejections, and then external heartbreaks, abuse, cheating, feeling left out, failure, all sorts of different rejections, and how we can deal with each one of those. So.
Yeah, and the book's actually outside for sale. So just see today as like an appetizer for everything she has to offer, right? Aren't you guys like, wow, she's full of wisdom and experience and godly character. So if you want that resource, it's out there. She has a podcast.
Yeah, there's so many, her podcast alone, but right, there's so many resources. I know that she also provides a lot of coaching and just being available through that healing process, that journey. And so we're just so thankful. I feel like you guys are like, we want more. But there is more online. She has a conference, the book, and everything. And so, Kait, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you guys so much.
Hey, show them some love.